What is up, NFL fans, and welcome back to another episode of the NFL Whip Around. I'm your host, Jeff Hartman, joined by my co-host, Coach Kevin Smith. What's up, Coach? How's it going?
It's good, Jeff. I said Brian because Brian Anthony Davis and I were just doing a podcast here, so
I bet.
we're a little weary here on a Monday where we had to stay up
Oof.
till 1 a.m. to watch the Steelers game and then ultimately end that in frustration. So forgive us, listeners, if we're a little salty today.
Now it's a double coffee. It's a double shot morning for those coffee drinkers out there for sure. But we're not just going to talk about the Steelers. We're going to talk about the entire National Football League with Week 5 in the books. Let's start things off. For those that are new to the program or may just be listening for the first time, we talk about 5 topics, and then we talk about a player profile at the very end. So let's start off with our first topic. Which 1-4 team is in the most trouble? The Browns, the Bengals, the Jaguars, or the Rams? Coach, out of those 4 teams, which is in the most trouble?
Yeah, it's an interesting list because I think all 4 of those teams were expected to be playoff contenders. I don't think it's the Bengals because we've seen them start slowly and they've recovered from some 1-3 starts to make the playoffs. The Rams are confounding to me. I can't quite figure them out. They beat the 49ers. They get blown out by the Cardinals. They lost a couple close ones. I feel like they should be better than they are. And last year they got off to a bad start and recovered. So I think it's a toss up between the Jaguars and the Browns. I'll let you talk about the Browns if you want, because I'll take the Jags here real quick.
Yeah,
that's no. You want to talk about the Jags?
Go ahead. I was going to talk about the Browns no matter what.
Okay, a little Schadenfreude there. So I think that the Jaguars have some serious problems. One, in the division, simply because Houston is gaining separate. They're already 3 games up now on Jacksonville. You're probably in that division going to have to win the division to make the playoffs. And Jacksonville certainly doesn't look like a team that can do that. But they just invested a lot of money in Trevor Lawrence. And while he played fairly well on Sunday, I mean, they were able to score 34 points and they looked more competent on offense than they have. Lawrence ended up throwing for like 370 yards or something like that. He's just not been consistent. He's turned the ball over. They don't seem to have an identity. The comment that Doug Peterson made last week, I thought was really telling when they asked him about the struggles or, why are you guys struggling? And, why are you having some issues, with your scheme? Is that what it is? And Doug Peterson said, we can put guys in position to make plays. We can't make the plays for them. And to me, that was like, whoa, that was the coach kind of firing a shot across the bow of the locker room. And it just feels dysfunctional right now. And I think that they've got a lot of problems.
Speaking of investing a lot of money, the Cleveland Browns have invested a lot of money in the quarterback that looks really, really bad right now. And I think that when you look at the teams that we have on this list, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, and the Rams, what's the one difference? Is that all those other teams have a quarterback that they feel like they can win with. I don't know any Browns fan that is still saying to this day after week 5, yeah, Deshaun Watson's our guy. I think he can lead the team to the playoffs or to playoff victory, whatever. The Bengals still have Joe Burrow, the Jags with Trevor Lawrence. You spoke about him, Matthew Stafford with the Rams. I think they're in trouble. And I'm talking about the Browns. I think that Deshaun Watson, everyone made a big deal about him walking off the field. There was a video and I shared it myself because, well, it's the Browns. So it honestly was a situation where they were going to go for it on 4th and goal. I don't know if you saw this. It looked like Deshaun Watson just walked off the field, but it wasn't. They had too many men in the huddle. They didn't want to burn a timeout, and so he walked off because they were going to have to take a delay and kick the field goal. And everyone's like, he's quitting on the team. That's not what that was. But at the same time, Kevin Stefanski's also he's sticking his flag in that Deshaun Watson camp, and he even said after the game, we're not going to make a switch. Coach, are they just riding this ship, even if it's going right towards the rocks?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Coach Stefanski, but I mean, that feels like, he's fallen on the sword a little bit here because the organization has committed to Deshaun Watson and a guy that you still owe about $180 million to. it's pretty hard to sit him down and put Jameis Winston in the lineup. Although Jameis Winston would be worth it for the sound bites alone because he's one of the most hysterical guys to listen to in the league. But Jameis Winston has never really shown like he consistently can be a winner. The future at the quarterback position in Cleveland is not Jameis Winston. So they got to kind of ride this thing out. They got to hope that they can get him fixed and get him turned around. I don't see what the alternative is.
Yeah, and it's not just Deshaun Watson. He's not good, but he's also not getting any protection. I mean, he's getting hit left and right. And if you watch that game against Washington, and this is not a new thread, the offensive line is doing him no favors. He's running for his life. And even when he does make a good pass, like he had a really good pass to Jerry Jeudy in the end zone, and it just dropped. Like, it's just dropped. Like the Cleveland Browns, I think if we're readdressing the question, which team is in the most trouble? I think it's Cleveland. Would you agree, though, even though you talked about Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're in the best division of all those teams. They've got injuries that are just brutal. I mean, like you think about Cleveland, what is their identity, or when have they been at their best the last couple of years? It's been when they can run the football and set up the pass. Well, now they're down. There's 2 starting offensive tackles. I mean, 2 very good tackles in Conklin and Wills. Nick Chubb is not back. I mean, when they've got all their guys, they're a very, very different football team than the one we're seeing right now. I guess the question will be, can they like hang in there? I mean, it's like sense of urgency time. You lose next week, you go to 1-5, and it's probably too late. There's probably a pretty good chance that you're not going to be able to recover from that. So, but if they can just hang around long enough to be able to get some of those guys back, then maybe. Next week they play the Eagles, who have their own struggles, and then they play the Bengals, who have their own struggles. So if you can somehow string a couple wins together and get healthy, maybe, but that's asking a lot.
All right, let's move on to the next topic, which we're going to flip the script here. Now we're talking about a 4-1 team. Excuse me. The Washington Commanders, they win again on Sunday, beating the Browns. They didn't just beat them, they crushed them. Are the Commanders the team to beat in the NFC East?
Well, it's tempting to say yes. It's tempting to because they've looked great. Jaden Daniels is on track to be not just the rookie of the year, man, but there's some people talking about him like he could be in the league MVP conversation. I mean, there's only been one rookie in the history of the NFL to win the MVP award, and that was Jim Brown. I mean, Jim Brown's a legendary name. So, yes, people are very excited about the Commanders. And I think that they're very, very good, man. Don't get me wrong. But I think I want to see more from them. I'm not ready to sort of crown them, so to speak. I feel like Washington is still a young team with a new coaching staff. Cliff Kingsbury has kind of been, out of the league for a little bit. Now he comes back and he's making a big splash. But you and I've talked about this, man. The coordinators in this league are great. The coaching staffs are great. They do a good job of kind of taking away the things that you're good at. I still think Dallas is the most talented team in the division. I think we'll learn a lot about the Commanders next week. They go to Baltimore. Let's see how they do in Baltimore before we kind of make the statement that they're the team to beat in the NFC East.
That's going to be a good matchup. And Baltimore's playing good football. They definitely seem to have turned their season around after a slow start. Washington's been red hot for really the majority of the season. I watched a lot of that Commanders-Browns game, was very impressed with Jaden Daniels. And I was impressed, though, with the offense. The way that they were scheming things up, and for Steeler fans out there, they have no idea what this is like. It's just setting things up, like we're going to run this play, and then in the second half, we're going to run this play, which is off of this, which is going to be dictated on what the defense is doing. You always talk about the chess match, that you're setting up moves for later on. Again, Steeler fans don't know what that's like, but great job by Cliff Kingsbury. That's going to be must-watch TV. I noticed, though, you didn't say anything about the Eagles in the NFC East race. I mean, do you not think that they're able to be a player in the division after they have? I mean, you did a great call sheet. Your buddy was very pissed off, but he said they were gonna come back and win it all.
Yeah, I mean, on my call sheet podcast last week, I had an Eagles fan on who literally, Jeff will confirm this, literally in a span of about 45 seconds, went from fire Sirianni, burn it all down, to we're winning the Super Bowl. I mean, it was a quintessential Philly. But that sort of that kind of like bipolarism is really sort of where the Eagles are right now. And so it's very hard to put a lot of faith in them because you just don't know who they are or what they're going to be.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. What a huge win for Dallas on Sunday night, though, in terms of the NFC East. They
Right.
are beat to hell. They're missing their best two defenders. They lost offensive linemen. I mean, it was like a mash unit out there. They find a way to win in Pittsburgh, and they move to 3-2, and they're staying with those Commanders. So if you're kind of like, okay, well, we're just waiting for the next shoe to drop with the Commanders and have them lose a game or trip up or lose a couple, the Cowboys, like you said, are right there kind of in lockstep with them. So I think that was really important. But the Commanders, that next game is going to be really big. That Baltimore game is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
For
All
sure.
right, let's go to our next topic. What's more surprising to you, the Vikings being 5-0 or the 49ers being 2-3? This is a really tough question. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with the Vikings because San Francisco last year got off to a hot start. I think they were 5-0, but then they lost 3 straight. I remember they went to Cleveland and they lost to the Browns, who were being quarterbacked by PJ Walker. Who I don't think there's more than 10 NFL fans who could pick PJ Walker out of a lineup. Like he's just a guy you're not expecting San Francisco to lose to.
Right.
So they can have these lulls, and then they seem to figure it out and they take off. And I suspect that that's what might happen with them again this year. But Jeff, nobody expected Minnesota to do what they're doing. What was their over under for wins? 6.5?
6.5. 6.5.
And what did you say?
Oh, hammer the under. And they're almost there.
They're almost there, right? They're almost there. I think Sam Darnold is getting a ton of credit, and he deserves it. He is absolutely on track to be the comeback player of the year. If not, also in that conversation for league MVP. But what Brian Flores is doing with that defense, I think, is remarkable. I mean, they're just confusing the heck out of teams. And they did it to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you don't fool Aaron Rodgers very often, but there was a great look in that game in London over the weekend where they did it, the quintessential Brian Flores mug look. You got 7 guys all walked up to the line of scrimmage, threatening some kind of, jailhouse blitz. And then at the snap, some of them come, some of them fall off. Rodgers got fooled. He thought he was going to get a slant, and the linebacker, Andrew Van Ginkel, great name, fell off and picked it and took it to the house. I mean, how often you see a defense just fool Aaron Rodgers like that? They're doing some great stuff, and I think it's that defense as much as anything that's responsible for their great start.
I agree. I want to take a quick aside, and I have a question I posed on Twitter yesterday. Do you think Brian Flores will ever get another opportunity as a head coach in the league?
Yeah, I don't know. Have they given him the Colin Kaepernick treatment? Is that what we're asking?
That's what I'm saying. The lawsuit is still pending. Like, it's still there. No one's talking about it.
As long as the lawsuit's there, I think the answer is no.
Okay.
I mean, that's a really hard hire, man. Right? Hiring a guy with an active suit against your employer.
But he's coaching so well, and people want to complain about what he did in Miami. While the offense wasn't great, they were still competitive when he was down there. And I'm sure he's probably learned a thing or two since that time. It'll be interesting to see if he does get, I hate using the term blackballed, but that's exactly what it would be in terms of him not getting an opportunity. But yeah, I'll give it credit that
you like a good conspiracy theory, right?
Love it. I absolutely love them.
So do you think that the NFL, that the owners conspired, or that the league office, the commissioner, et cetera, conspired with the owners to blackball Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I do too.
And maybe they didn't conspire together, but I think they all kind of probably said, I don't know if we want that headache here. I don't know if we want that type of media attention here. And then the league might have stepped in and said, hey, like, if y'all do this, it's on your own accord. You're going to bring this with you. And so whether you agree or disagree with what Colin Kaepernick did, stood for, et cetera, that's neither here nor there. I don't think a lot of those teams wanted that. So this is where let's bring it to Brian Flores. It would have to be a team. It'd have to be a team like the Steelers, a team that during the lawsuit, right after it was dropped, not dropped, but after it was initiated, they brought him in. he didn't have a job. And Mike Tomlin said, hey, like, you could either sit this year out or you can come in and help and work with us. And I think that helped springboard him to getting the DC job in Minnesota, the fact that he was given an opportunity. Will there be a black sheep team that says, you know what? This guy's too good of a coach to just say we're not going to deal with it. I want to hire him. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Right. Yeah, the problem for Brian Flores is that the teams that seem willing to do that, you just mentioned the Steelers. Andy Reid did it with Michael Vick after he went through the dog fighting issue, and they've been willing to reach out to some guys that have been kind of outcasted for some, but those are also two of the most stable franchises in terms of the head coaching position in the league.
Yes.
The teams that are unstable at that position tend not to be ones that want to reach for somebody who's going to bring additional controversy.
Yeah. And let's also not forget, when you're labeling Brian Flores as his head coaching tenure in Miami, let's also not forget what the lawsuit was and is. And that is that his owner was trying to pay him to lose so that they would get a higher draft pick. And he kind of refused. So if the owner is basically saying, you're going to lose and I want you to lose, I'm going to pay you to lose, and he's like, no, screw that. Like, I can't do that. Then what are they doing in terms of moves being made as a general manager, as a front office personnel? Like, there's a lot of layers to this. But I want to leave Flores for a second and ask you a question about the Niners. Can they rebound without Christian McCaffrey? It doesn't look like his return is imminent, but if they don't get Christian McCaffrey back in the near future, is that a big enough loss that you could say, like, this could continue to downward spiral?
Yes. I mean, I thought that he arguably should have been the league MVP last year, given his value to that team. And they got away with it for a couple weeks early on. They had that rookie running back, I can't remember his name, but step in and put up some big numbers early on. But I think that you're seeing his overall value. He does a little bit of everything. He's the guy in that offense that you can always lean on to make a play when you need a play. And the fact that he's a running back, you can get him the ball easily. That's the thing that, it can be a struggle at times to get the ball to your wide receivers, simply because you have to rely upon so many things to go right, the blocking, the quarterback, et cetera. When you can scheme it up and hand the ball to a talented guy like McCaffrey, or just using some shifts and motions, create an easy mismatch and just throw him a little swing pass, and then let him do his thing, that's a huge benefit because of the simplicity therein. So I think that his return will probably hinge on where this season goes for the Niners.
All right, good stuff. Let's go to our next topic. The Las Vegas Raiders benched Gardner Minshew, and they put in Aiden O'Connell in their loss to the Broncos on Sunday. Who's the next starting quarterback who could get the hook? Which I don't think the Raiders, by the way, have announced who will start in week 6. I know that Antonio Pierce kind of left it open, but still, Minshew gets yanked in the middle of the game. Who do you think is the next quarterback to get the hook?
Well, isn't it tempting to say Watson? It's tempting to say, but as we just discussed, I don't think they're going to do it. I don't know if they can. I mean, I'll go with Will Levis in Tennessee. I don't think that Will Levis is playing good enough football for the Titans, who are clearly in rebuilding mode, for them to say, he's our franchise guy. And it's his irresponsibility with the football. He turns it over and he makes bad decisions. And he's kind of like, hey, I'm Brett Favre, I'm a gunslinger, but you're not, Right. So and then Mason Rudolph, the backup, has shown that he can play decent football in stretches. So it wouldn't shock me to see Levis benched, and then for the Titans to be an active player in the quarterback search this offseason.
Okay, I see your Will Levis, and I raise you a Jacoby Brissett. I think Brissett, last I checked, was still the starter in New England. Not sure if you heard the news about the podcast done by the Patriots and one of their writers with, I guess, I don't know if it was an interview or if they were just giving their opinion, but the writer basically said that there was almost a mini mutiny over Brissett continuing to get the start over Drake May. And the team wants Drake May to start. And so that podcast was taken down and they edited it up and all this stuff. I think that Jacoby Brissett is a serviceable backup, and he can even start in stints for you. But what's your take on that New England situation? Because that's where I would put my money as the next quarterback switch with a rookie waiting in the wings.
I'm just looked it up. Jacoby Brissett amassed a QBR of 31.3 on Sunday, and 10. They got 10 points against Miami. I mean, at this point, if you're New England, you're 1-4. Your offense is dreadful, absolutely dreadful. I mean, they're last in the league in points per game. If the argument is we don't want to rush Drake May into the lineup because we don't want to ruin him, like we've seen happen to so many young quarterbacks over the years, I get that. If the argument is we're in that process of letting him kind of sit and watch and learn and mature, we're going to rack up a bunch of L's and have a really high draft pick. I mean, I even get that, but if you're just looking for the best quarterback, the guy that you think it maybe will give you the best chance to win games, then you probably should play Drake May. Like if you're trying to win and find out what you have, so I don't know what their mindset is. I don't know where they are. Are they looking towards next year? Are they trying to protect Drake May? How much of a hurry are they in to see what they have in him? I think that is the answer to the question of, when they're going to make a move.
Yeah, and that season just feels like it's hinging right now on just it's going to get out of control. And so some might say, well, now's the time to put in Drake May, but is it really? Is it really with all the stuff that's going on? Is that the best situation to put your rookie quarterback into? I don't know. That's going to be interesting.
No, I mean,
any other
because guys, we've seen it happen again, time and again. You rush the young guy in, and here are the receivers in New England right now: Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, Jalen Polk, Kendrick Bourne. I mean, is there a single guy there that makes you go like, oh, hey, right? No. I mean, Hunter Henry's a decent tight end, but they just don't have any weapons there, man. And I mean, maybe their fear is in the, we don't want this guy to really struggle and lose his confidence. And there's an argument to be made for that.
Yeah. Any other quarterback situations you could see changing in the near future?
Well, let's see, what time is it? Depending on what time it is, the Eagles fans are ready to hook Jalen Hurts, man. Some of them are ready to build a statue outside the link to him, and other guys are like, play Pickett. No, actually, nobody's yelling play Pickett. I can vouch for that, but there is a lot of angst in Philly about Jalen Hurts. There's just and that's, I'm sure it's mostly fan perception, but there's a lot of fans that just think that he's not the guy that they thought he was. That when they had Shane Steichen as their OC, he understood how to develop Jalen Hurts and plan that offense, map that offense. You're kind of seeing him do some similar things in Indy with Anthony Richardson, but that since Steichen has left, Hurts hasn't been the same guy, and there's questions as to whether or not like they can kind of get him back. I'm not saying he's going to be replaced. He's not, but at the same time, he's a quarterback where there are some questions about.
You could also probably throw Justin Fields if the Steelers choose to go away from him and go to Russell Wilson, since Russell Wilson is, I guess, deeming himself healthy enough at this stage that could be another coaching decision that's made that would be a quarterback switch. So as a Steeler fan, are you looking forward to seeing that, or is that something you're kind of dreading?
No, I mean, I'm still I still like the idea of them moving forward with Fields. I think Fields got better in each game the first 4 weeks of the season, probably took his first step back on Sunday night against Dallas, but to pin that loss on Fields is lazy. Pittsburgh had a lot of other issues in that game. He certainly wasn't the only one who didn't play his best football. So I'm still willing to see where he can go before I want to see Wilson.
Fair enough. All right, let's go to our last topic. It's way too early to start thinking about postseason awards, but let's do it anyways. After 5 weeks, who's your MVP of the 2024 season? I know that Jaden Daniels' name got brought up earlier, and the rookie and Jim Brown and all that history, but who would be your MVP at this stage?
I really tried to avoid answering like Lamar Jackson,
right?
but it's hard not to answer Lamar Jackson. I mean,
Yep.
obviously Baltimore didn't get off to a great start, but the last 3 weeks, I mean, they've just been dynamic on offense. And I mean, Lamar, like as I watch the Ravens play, like I think to myself, how would I defend that guy? And I don't know. Especially now with Derrick Henry in the lineup, it just feels as though so much attention has to be paid to Derrick Henry that you're now freeing up Lamar Jackson in so many different ways. I mean, it feels like the Ravens have a mismatch no matter what you do. You want to load the box. Jackson's good enough, and those receivers are good enough to be able to make you pay in one-on-ones, or, they if you want to blitz him, he's elusive enough to be able to get out of the pocket and make things happen with his legs. If you fall back and play too high, they're going to pound you with that run game. I think that he's the cog in that machine that really makes it so dangerous. So maybe, 5 weeks in, maybe his body of work isn't good enough to say he's the MVP, but the way that things are trending, and again, he's already won it twice. And a lot of people would say like, well, he's done nothing in the postseason. He's Mr. Regular Season. And that's a valid argument. But, and I tried really hard not to say him because I looked around the league and I was like, well, who else? I don't know. I would lean towards him.
Well, I'll go with the dark horse candidate. And I would agree with everything you said about Lamar. I'll go with Jared Goff. And Jared Goff is, and the Detroit Lions, I don't think they've lived up to the expectation that people had in their brain of what they're going to look like. They're still winning football games. Jared Goff has thrown for over 1,000 yards already after just 4 games, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a rating of 95.3. As a dark horse candidate, though, I look at Jared Goff and say, if he continues to play at a high level, I think his name is at least in the hat. And if he can get them to an NFC North title, if he can get the Lions into a deep playoff run and maybe get them over that hump and get to a Super Bowl, I think he is a very viable option as the MVP. I know your son's a Lions fan. What do you think about that?
I think you'd be thrilled to hear that, man. Jared Goff was 18 for 18 last week, man.
Yeah.
Like that's unbelievable. And
he caught a
I agree with everything. What's that? And he caught a touchdown. I agree with everything you're saying. He's playing some great football. Ben Johnson, their OC, is putting him in positions to succeed. Ben Johnson's, he's a head coach in waiting, I think for sure. So that he's a good name. I think CJ Stroud, before all is said and done, I think his name will be in that conversation. Josh Allen had a couple great weeks there, but then Buffalo just got snotted by the Ravens, and Allen kind of his took a little bit of a hit, so to speak, there. But I mean, I think for the most part, it's it's a quarterback league, and there's going to be this pool of 4 or 5 quarterbacks at the end of the day who are going to wind up being in that conversation.
Any non-quarterback that you could think potentially being in the mix?
Maybe Justin Jefferson, man. He's just just so dynamic, and with the success that Minnesota is having, and every week he just seems to do another ridiculous thing that makes you say like, hey, this guy is unquestionably the best wide receiver in the NFL, and the Vikings are 5-0 with Sam Darnold at quarterback. Why? And he's a big reason why.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's finish with a player profile. You want to talk about Danny Dimes?
Yeah, let's get some love. Let's get some love to Daniel Jones. We've been a little hard on Daniel Jones on this show.
Yes, we
have. And yesterday or Sunday, the Giants start out. They open the game with this epic drive. They take the ball from deep in their own territory. They go on a 16-play drive. They chew up over 9 minutes of the clock. And they've got, goal to go on the 1-yard line. And as their running back is going, is literally about to cross the end zone, the plane, he gets hit, fumbles, and Seattle scoops it up and runs it back 102 yards for a touchdown. I mean, that is just a crushing momentum change. You've put together the best offensive drive that your team has put together probably in a couple seasons, maybe in Daniel Jones's career, and you're going to punch it in, and instead it goes 102 yards the other way. I think I tweeted something out that said, like, I don't know if the Giants will recover from this. And what they do when they got the ball back, they went right down the field on another long 80-play drive and scored and wound up, really handling the Seahawks. And Daniel Jones went 23 out of 34 for 250 some yards and a couple touchdowns. He didn't turn the ball over. And I just thought, man, that's a hell of a response to the adversity. And you would have expected Daniel Jones to crumble given his resume. But instead, he overcame that adversity, stepped up, played a great game. And the Giants got a big win against a Seattle team that started off hot. So I was really impressed with what I saw from him yesterday.
I think that if anything, Daniel Jones encompasses the NFL knee-jerk reaction in modern day society. Everyone was ready to just fire that guy into the sun. Like literally just shoot him off, just send him straight towards that giant fiery orb in the sky. And what has he done? He's found like a sense of like equilibrium about his game. They're finding ways that they can win with him. I don't know if it's sustainable, but at least for now, Giants fans have to be sitting there thinking, well, we wanted to fire Brian Daboll, maybe not now. And Daniel Jones, we wanted him gone. Maybe we can win with him. That's like kind of the ebb and flow of being an NFL fan in general. Yeah. But I think it also is a lesson learned for there's going to be ups and downs in a season. 1972 Dolphins go perfect season. Most teams are going to stumble. They're going to lose games. They're going to struggle. And you have to just ask yourself who's going to be playing the best when it matters the most. Daniel Jones has been playing better football. Let's call a spade a spade. Hey, I'm glad to see it.
For whatever whatever stock you put in statistics, through 5 weeks, Daniel Jones is 10th in the league in passing yards, 12th in touchdown passes, 12th in QBR. That's not like, hey, superstar stuff, but that's better than the majority of quarterbacks in the NFL. If you're 10th or 12th, you're kind of like in the conversation among, some of the better guys in the league. So right now he's playing in that conversation.
It's a great point. Great point as always. All right, Coach, that does it for this episode. What's coming up on the call sheet? You got anything in mind?
Well, I'm kicking a couple of ideas around. I want to get back in touch with our friend David Stefano.
Yeah.
Over at First and Skull and just touch in with him about the Vikings because he's just so good at being able to break down what's going on there. Their success has been incredible. So I may reach out to Dave and I got some film rooms coming up. Really starting to look forward to getting deeper into the film stuff. So it's going to be a good week, man. There's so much going on in the league.
How's the team doing? Y'all still winning?
We're 4-2, man. We lost to our big rival this past weekend, and it was a game that was nothing with 8 minutes left. It was an old school slugfest. There was a lot of kids leaving the field, man. A lot of hitting, a lot of wounded bodies in that handshake line afterwards. But they made some plays at the end and beat us. But man, we're having a good year.
Good. 3 yards in a cloud of dust, just like Kevin Smith likes it.
Hey man, you scheme to the strength of your roster, man, and that's where we are. That's how we're built this year.
All right, good stuff as always, Coach. Thank you for your time. Make sure you check out all of our podcasts here on the FFSN NFL podcast feed. Wherever you get your podcast, find us by searching FFSN NFL. Take it easy. We'll see you another NFL Whip Around next week.